Great pleasure right now to welcome in our book talk segment a woman who's written a very interesting novel. It kind of deals with technology and how we deal with it, and maybe too much technology in our lives. It's called Touch, and the author Courtney Maum, she had a great success with her previous book, I'm Having So Much Fun Here Without You, but this one getting a lot of great press right now, again, called Touch, and Courtney joined us on the telephone now. And Courtney, good to talk with you. How are you?
It's wonderful to be here. I'm quite well, thank you.
You're up in Connecticut, is that right? If I read the notes correctly?
I live in Connecticut. I haven't been there for a while because I'm on a wonderful book tour that's taking me across the country. Right now I'm in New York City.
Yeah, see your schedule they gave me here. You were in where I was born in Brooklyn yesterday, so you're all around the Northeast, right?
No,
Actually, you were in California last week. Oh, you're really all over the place. You're right.
I was yesterday morning. I was in Detroit, and then Manhattan, and then Brooklyn. Today I'm in New York City. Tonight I'm in Connecticut. Tomorrow I'm in Chattanooga. So I'm actually in a different city or two different cities every day for 2 weeks.
They just gave me a partial list then, because you're on a busy tour.
Yeah, no, I've been West Coast, Midwest, the South. Yeah.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the previous book. It got a lot of great notoriety for you, and this one is doing quite well. I know it just came out as well. It's a novel, but it's kind of based on what's going on in the world today, obviously with technology and your work life too. You've worked as a trend forecaster. I think you deal with naming cosmetics now. So the world has changed a lot in the last 10 years, but it kind of touches on all that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely does. Touch is a novel about a trend forecaster named Sloan Jacobson, who is brought to the world's biggest tech company to predict the next trends in technology. So the irony is that she's paid to look into connections in the way that people connect with one another, but she's actually a really disconnected person. She is estranged from her own family. Her love life is like a dumpster fire. She doesn't have a lot of personal friends. In the book, her closest friend is actually with her driverless car, Anastasia. So, yeah, it's a story about trends and technology, but it's also, one woman's journey back to a more emotionally connected way of life.
Yeah, I read through it, and again, when I talk to novelists, I don't like to give away too much, so I don't want to give too much plot away. But she's involved with I guess one of her coworkers, named Roman, right, who has written I guess an article or something that really espouses the technology of today and how it's good for us, but maybe too far, right?
Yeah, he goes pretty far. So Roman is actually kind of her life partner that she's been with for 10 years, and he's French, he's an intellectual, he considers himself a neo-sensualist, which he defines as someone who is paid to think about sensuality in the digital age. And what happens with Roman is he goes very far out and decides that penetrative sex is over, it's not necessary anymore, the world is overpopulated, so we don't need more reproduction, and that augmented virtual sexuality and cyber sexuality is kind of the new frontier in sensuality. So he just thinks that sort of tactility and physical touch is just dead.
and sadly, I mean, it's kind of a satirical in a way, but a lot of people kind of believe that, right, or live that way nowadays. It's a little sad.
A lot of people do. I mean, this is going to sound really shocking. A lot of people live that way. But on Monday in Portland, Oregon, I was in conversation with Samantha Hess, who is a professional cuddler and has founded a company called Cuddle Up to Me. And that's what happened. I say that and people laugh and chuckle, which I completely understand, and I myself was like that in the beginning. But when you talk to these people who work in this industry, the important thing is to ask, well, how do they have enough business, right? And why is there a demand? And the fact is that people are coming to them. In the beginning, it proved very therapeutic for the elderly, for people with autism, for people with depression. But now these hugging therapists, these hugging professionals, are just having people who work too much in an office all day. Maybe they've had a divorce, and they're touch starved. They're in a touch deficit, which is something I talk a lot about in the book. So I feel quite sympathetic, to the fact that industry exists and is burgeoning.
I saw, I don't know, there was a piece on one of the news channels a while ago about that, and
Yep.
yeah, they're doing well, I guess. I mean, in a way, it's sad because, like you say, a lot of people don't get,
Yeah.
when you're a kid. Hopefully, when I grew up, your mother hugged you, or your grandmother, you got a lot of that. Maybe that's not happening anymore. People growing up that way. I don't know. It's sad.
Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that these businesses are booming, though, does I think it's positive, actually, because what it means is that people aren't carrying as much shame
Right.
As they might have before to say, oh, I'm lonely. They're doing something about it. So it's actually a good thing.
Again, getting back to the book called Touch, and your main character, again, is Sloan Jacobson. And, when you write a book like this, you're dealing with, what's happening in the world somewhat with technology. You sort of have to keep, that's kind of what you do as well in your other work, but you have to kind of be accurate, don't you, with the technology, what's going on? I guess the readers really pay attention to that.
Well, it's fiction, right? So you can do whatever you want. I mean, I tried to, I don't actually name the year in this book. It could be several years ago. It could be several years in the future. But one thing I went out of my way to, there's some applications and technology developments that are spoken about in the book that actually exist, and some of them are fictional, and I just blend the two, so you might not know which is which. And then another thing I do is, no one is, speaking on an iPhone or a Android. They're just called cell phones. No one Googles anything. They're just looking at search engines. So I went out of my way not to name brands because I think it can feel pretty stifling and a little stressful when you have the name of devices. And so I also wanted people to take a step back and just think about cell phones and not picture the iPhones. Just think about smart devices without naming them, as such.
Do you find, Courtney, that people are starting to say, nothing wrong with technology as long as you use it properly and, in moderation, but maybe people are stepping back a little bit?
Oh, I absolutely find that. I've been traveling around the country and meeting people who are, and young people, I mean, really young people in their 20s in college who started off by leaving Facebook, getting off of Instagram and Twitter, and then downgrading to these secondary dumb phones that only call or text, because they just don't want to be so available anymore. And I absolutely think, we're at an apex right now of sort of availability. Everywhere you go, you've got a GPS on you. Everyone knows where you are. You can't really get lost anymore. And there's a total lack of romance to that. So one of the predictions I have in the novel that I myself agree with is that I think sites like Airbnb are going to develop icons that show places that do not have Wi-Fi, where you can go and you're specifically paying perhaps even a little bit more to be disconnected. I think that's going to be an aspirational thing.
I agree with you. I mean, I like, you like to check in on email if you have to, but boy, it becomes where you just almost, don't want to even deal with it after a while. So you need to get away.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Go to Wi-Fi-less places. That's a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the name of the novel is called Touch, and a really fascinating read, Courtney. As they say, a good summer read as we're heading into the summer season, and just came out, published by Putnam. And Courtney, you have a website you can direct people to, get more information about you or the book?
I do. The website's CourtneyMaum.com, so M-A-U-M.
Great. Courtney, pleasure talking to you. Thanks for taking the time. I know you're on a busy travel tour, but hopefully we can do it again when your next book comes out. Thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or DougMilesMedia.com.